Welcome everyone to our Prospero demo today for financial reporting, budgeting, and analysis. Glad you could join me today. I've got a few slides to go through with you before we actually get over to Prospero. I'll take any questions. Just type those in that go to webinar control panel as I go through these topics. A little bit about us, the MSX Group. We started this company about 10 years ago. Mainly as a service company, handling services for Management Reporter, Microsoft Forecaster, FRX, and some other products. All of us were originally with Microsoft before we started this company, and even before that with Great Plains and even FRX. And the whole time we were always working with these products, and which has always been financial reporting and budgeting. So all of us here at MSX Group have over 20 years of experience working with these products and these new products that we're coming out with. In fact, we built Prospero in-house as an all-in-one solution in an effort to replace Management Reporter, FRX, and Forecaster because we saw that Microsoft was going to continue discontinue those products. That's what led to us building Prospero. I've got my email address on the screen here, which is the easiest way to get in touch with me after today at noah.mosley@msxgroup.com, and I'll have that on the website as well. So a little bit about Prospero. This is our financial reporting and budgeting software solution. This lets you handle all of your financial statements, all of your budgeting, all of your forecasts, all in one single application. Everything is included in the application, although you can purchase the modules separately. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Got a little air traffic going overhead, so hopefully that doesn't cause too much background noise. But the big picture for Prospero is for financial reporting, budgeting, and forecasting. You've got interactive charts and graphs inside the application. Dynamic drill down, so you can drill down through your financial statements all the way to the account level details and to the transaction level details. We also have migration options available. So if you have users that are currently using Management Reporter, FRX, and Forecaster, they don't have to start from scratch. We can use their data from those applications, copy that over to Prospero so they can have a starting point with their reports from those products and their input screens and details from Forecaster. So they don't have to start from scratch. Huge time saver when you're switching between one application to another application. Now you can purchase Prospero as just a reporting package or just as a budgeting package. So we'll talk about both of those a little bit. For reporting, you can handle all of your financial statements inside Prospero as far as your income statements, balance sheet statements, cash flow statements, trial balance statements, and any other kind of supporting schedule that you want to pull together from your GL data. Now, it is focused on GL data, so we're not pulling any information from other systems like your fixed assets or HR. This is general ledger data, but we do allow you to drill down to the account level detail pages and to the transaction level detail pages. And all of these reports that you generate with Prospero have built-in charts and graphs. So not only can you drill down through the numeric reports, you can also drill down through the charts and graphs inside Prospero. Reporting has integration with your general ledger, so we can schedule that to update the actual balances as often as you need those updated, usually at the top of every hour. So you have an integration that copies in your general ledger, all your accounts, all your transaction level details on a regular basis. You don't have to do that manually. It's all scheduled on the database side. So that has that integration for reporting. Now, you can buy reporting just by itself and not have any of your budget input screens or forecast input screens. You could, though, with reporting, pull in your budget balances from other systems and have that available in reporting inside Prospero. Now, if you decide to buy the budgeting application or module inside Prospero, it's easy to use spreadsheet style user input screens. If your budgeters are working with Forecaster, they will not have any problem at all transitioning to Prospero. If they're budgeting in Excel spreadsheets, they don't have a problem because everything for input inside Prospero is for rows and columns, really easy spreadsheet style layout. We've got detail input screens for human resource budgeting and capital budgeting for new assets. So they've already ready for you. You just need to fill in a few of the setup information like account numbers, rates, and import your employees and set up the life of the assets. You got line item details when you're doing your budget input screens. That way your budgeters do not have to call you and ask you to add more accounts, so more rows for them to do input. They can open up an account and add as many lines to that account that they want to, and change the description and add all the balances to the account for the total. We can have notes available for input screen, easy to add that for any of your input screens, as well as the HR detail screen and the capital detail screen. And as soon as your budget managers click the save button on their input screen, all that data is consolidated in Prospero's SQL database and available for reporting. So as soon as they click save, you can run your reports and compare those balances to actuals right away. Now, if you buy budgeting without the reporting piece, you're missing the integration to your general ledger. So you would have to, if you just buy the budgeting with not the integration to the general ledger, we'd have to copy in your chart of accounts from somewhere else like Excel, and all of your balances would be imported instead of automatically scheduled and copied from the general ledger GL database. I've got a couple slides here to talk about comparing Prospero against Management Reporter, FRX, and Forecaster. We've been putting together Prospero for many years now. So we tried to go back and look at the other products, FRX, Management Reporter, and Forecaster, and pull the functionality that was most useful in those products and include it in Prospero. Stuff like new features in development, that bullet point there at the very top there, we are on a regular basis developing Prospero, adding more content to it, more functionality to it. We built Prospero to replace these other products because Microsoft has discontinued these other products. FRX, Forecaster, and Management Reporter will eventually go away. You have those products today exactly as they are. There will be no more development, no more bells and whistles, and support will be discontinued as well. Security setup. Prospero has security all in one single application. It's not scattered across a reporting application and a separate budgeting application. You don't have to duplicate user IDs between those two separate systems. Everything is in a centralized security model inside Prospero, so that handles security for all of your reports and all of the budgeting in one application. Security roles go along with that. MR and FRX only had 4 roles, which you could not modify the access for those. Whereas in Prospero, we can have as many roles for your groups as we need to, always add more, and make any changes to those roles as needed. All of the building blocks for Prospero they are all in single locations, same application, same database for reporting and budgeting. If you think back to MR, FRX, and Forecaster, you'd have several applications to pull everything together, like with MR and FRX. You'd have one application that we would use to handle building and running all the reports, but you'd have to have a separate application to actually view the reports that you ran. Security was all handled kind of in both applications. So with Prospero, you've got a single application that consolidates all of that. If you run a report inside Prospero and you want to look at the line set that makes up that report, you just open that line set, it opens up in a new tab right beside where you are. You don't have to go back to a separate application. Line set maintenance. That was could be a huge process inside FRX and Management Reporter. All your rows were kind of hard coded in the row definitions or row formats. If you ever want to go back and add a new account, you had to go back and find that row definition and insert that new row, that new account. We've made a lot of improvements inside Prospero. We've got summary accounts, which you can set to automatically expand. So you can build your account summaries that are just using wildcards or ranges of accounts. You can reference that summary in your line set and have it automatically expand and show you all the accounts that roll up into it. And that way, if you ever add a new account, they automatically get included in that report when it runs. That row, the summary row, expands automatically. If you build it with ranges, it knows to catch those new accounts. So you can really use those to reduce maintenance in your reporting setup. Report output. With FRX, you had a lot of flexibility where you could generate reports directly to the screen, the printer, directly to Excel, to PDF. But that went away with MR. MR had requirements where you could run the report, but only to the screen. So you could not generate directly to Excel or directly to the printer. You'd always have to run the report, look at it in the viewer, and then export to Excel or print it. So we brought that back in Prospero. You have all those options as soon as you define the report in the definition, or right before you run it, or after you run it. Okay, so a lot of flexibility for output options for Prospero. Built-in graphing, we have that built into Prospero for any report that you want to set up for charts and graphs. MR had a little bit of charting graphing, but you could only select one column at a time of data or one row of data at a time, and then do a simple chart off of that data. There was no drill down. It was very static and not very easy to make any changes to that chart or graph that you created. So we've given you a lot more flexibility inside Prospero for viewing that data in graphical displays and drilling down through the details in that chart or graph. And it's easy to jump back and forth between chart and graph views versus numeric reports at any time. Drill down order. With MR, you can't change your drill down order, so you're stuck with the way you have your trees built or going straight to the account level of detail. But with Prospero, we've got drill down order that you can change at any time. You can define it before you run the report, or you can change it as you're looking at the report and drilling down. Same thing with charts and graphs. You can change the drill down order for charts and graphs. So if you want to see the balances broken out by department, that's fine. If you want to change that and break it out by location, that's fine too. Easy to switch that any time. Report library, that's where everything that you generate inside Management Reporter is stored. Management Reporter has every report you ever run stored in the library. We've kind of changed that inside Prospero so that we do not store every report that you generate, but if you decide that you run a report and you do want to store that static copy or that archive copy, we can publish that to our library in Prospero. So it saves that version of the report, those specific numbers, so that even if you go back and change something in the general ledger, that report you publish is static, it does not change. So you get to pick and choose which reports you do want to keep as a static copy. Those are stored inside Prospero's SQL database under published reports. Statistics, easy to add those inside Prospero. Other general ledgers with MR and FRX may not let you pull anything from statistical accounts, might not be able to make stat accounts. For Prospero, you don't even have to have a GL account for stats. When you make up any other kind of account to store those balances to, we can just import those statistical balances into Prospero's data warehouse and use that on any of our input screens and for any of our reports. Customizing Prospero, really easy. You can customize all the quick launch, common reports, window settings, toolbars, shortcuts and colors, and that's per individual user, and it doesn't affect other users, so you can customize how your version of Prospero looks. Did not have that option necessarily inside MR or FRX, not too much inside Forecaster, but a lot of options inside Prospero, so making it appeal to your individual users. And the pricing is a big plus for us. We have great functionality inside Prospero, but we don't charge outrageous prices. You've got robust reporting and budgeting at a fraction of the cost of the big dollar packages. So very good pricing for Prospero. Now, a couple of slides here for budgeters who might be not using Forecaster but doing their budgets still in Excel. Now, Excel is a great budgeting application if you have a simple budget, not too many users involved. But over time, if it gets more and more, as it gets more and more complicated, you look at having way too many spreadsheets, a lot of formulas across all your different templates, broken links. It takes a lot of time to replicate those templates and then distribute those out to all your different budget managers. No workflow, no security, audit trail. You just emailing files out to everybody and waiting for those to come back to you. So a lot of problems with budgeting in Excel after you kind of outgrow it, as far as all these the data integrity, version control, and consolidation. Because once you have the budget inside Excel, it's not always that easy to compare it back to actuals, especially not right away. You gotta pull it all together and then make it available to your reporting application. So comparing to actuals after that consolidation is a huge ordeal as well. If you're going to budget using Prospero, a lot quicker to get Prospero up and running. You can especially reuse your input screens and all of your settings from one year to the next. You don't have to rebuild a column definition or rebuild a line set. It just helps you to reuse that definition. It could be as simple as just changing the date. So change the date, open the input screen, and you are ready to go. Prospero helps you get away from all those broken links and all those different Excel cells, all those different Excel spreadsheets, and it gives you really easy process for rolling all those balances together and having that consolidation available as soon as your budget manager clicks the save button on their input screen. You don't have to do any consolidation. That save button does everything for you. Everything is stored in one centralized database for Prospero, the same location where your actuals are stored. So everybody looks at the same database, same set of numbers. And it's easy to use. It's not a very difficult product at all. It's spreadsheet style layout, easy for your budget managers to use and transition from Excel over to Prospero. So let me take you over to Prospero and I'll give you a tour. Again, if you got any questions as I go through the stuff, just type those in that question box or that chat box on the GoToWebinar control panel. So I am looking at Prospero. Actually, let me switch. There we go. Now I'm looking at Prospero. So I've got on my screen the quick launch, these colorful tiles that you can change the colors, the sizes, and everything for individual users. I've got some tabs open across the top. I'll talk about those in a little bit. But the main navigation for Prospero is located on the left-hand side. If you're going to be the report administrator or the budget administrator, you're going to use the left-hand navigation side a great deal. If you are a budget manager, you may not need this left-hand navigation at all. You might just launch everything from your quick launch panel. That's all the tiles here in the middle. But let's look at the left-hand navigation set first. Easy to jump to any of the different areas inside Prospero. I've got reports selected here. And looking at the top of this left-hand panel, I've got all of my report definitions listed and organized in different folders. These are not folders on the network. They are just folders organizing these report definitions in Prospero's SQL database. You can make any folders here you need to, as few as you need to, or as many. Any of these report definitions, you can just double click to open up the definition and run that report, or you can just right click and run that report. So easy to run anything from the definitions right here inside Prospero. Every report definition that you build, very similar to how MR and FRX used building blocks, Prospero does as well. So we use lines and columns to define our reports. And those same lines and columns can be used to define our input screens for budget and forecast as well. So I've got two buttons at the lower left here, one for lines. This shows me all of the line definitions I've set up inside Prospero to use for any of my reports or any of my budget input screens, or I can use the same line set for budget input screens and the same reports. So you can mix and match and reuse between anything inside Prospero. Same thing for all of your columns. They're all listed in one location. I can use these column definitions on any input screens or for any reports or both. Now, those lines and columns are very similar to FRX and Management Reporter's row definitions and row formats, and similar to the lines and columns in Forecaster as well. Now, the next option down is trees. Trees are a lot different than the reporting trees in FRX or Management Reporter. They're more similar to the trees in Forecaster. Now, under trees at the top left here, I've got current, and I've got 4 different segments in this company. I've got my list of companies, I've got my naturals or my main account numbers, my locations, and my departments. And the trees will let me organize any of these any which way I need to. Just expand location there, I can see I've got the first one, which is my all locations, which is updated anytime you add a new location. I don't have to manually make any changes to that one, but I do have a few others that are set up separately that may not automatically get updated. If you can build these with ranges or wildcards, they do get updated automatically. But sometimes you build these summary definitions using individual references to locations or departments or accounts. In that case, they would not get automatically updated. Let me look at this one for total company by region. I'll just double click to open up that definition on the right for us, just so you'll see that it's a lot different than the reporting trees in FRX or Management Reporter. I've got 5 summaries here, one top for the total company, and I've got a summary for the East region, South region, West, and Midwest. Now, the first 3, they're all listing individual ones, so if you ever added another entry for the East region, I'd have to come back to East and right-click and insert that new addition. But the one at the bottom for Midwest is using a asterisk as a wildcard. So that would automatically get updated. I would not have to come back here and make any changes to Midwest if I added a new Midwest location that was in the 4,000, in the 40,000 range. So that would update itself. So the trees, really handy for consolidations. You can reference these trees in any of your reports or input screens, on any row or any columns, or when you run the reports. I'll show you that when we get ready to run the income statement we're going to use for this demonstration. So I'm going to close out of this reporting tree. A couple other buttons on the lower left-hand side I want to mention. We just looked at trees, published reports. This is a list of all the reports that you ever archive. So every time you run a report, it does not save that copy, but if you want to keep that copy as a static copy so that you know what you passed out on that day, then you publish it and it's stored in this section for published reports. You can set these folders up for any which way you want to organize these. Usually it's by our calendar years and then months, but you can set up any folders to organize these any which way you need to. We have report collections as well, and report collections will let you run several reports at one time or several charts and graphs at one time. So easy to put those into one collection and have them all generated at one time. Like you can have your income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and trial balance reports all in one report collection. Open that definition, change the date, and run them all at one time. So you don't have to go to each separate report definition and run them individually. Right below that, at the bottom left, you've got another button there for input. All of our input definitions for any of our budgets or for any of our forecasts. And you can set up as many versions of the budgets as you need to. You can set as many forecast versions as you need to. So if you're not limited to a certain number, and it's easy to copy from one to the next. So you don't have to start from scratch. And when you're building those new input screens, you are using the lines and columns that you could also be using for reports. And you can reuse those from one year to the next. Really helps reduce maintenance going forward if you can reuse what you've already started in prior years. Security, I've got this option as an administrator to handle all of the security settings for all of your users inside Prospero, as far as what reports can they get to, what input screens can they get to, what companies, what departments, what locations, can they get to anything other than just viewing reports you've run for them. So a lot of control about all the security for all your users in one location. I'll just go to user definition here, and that will open up our security section. I've got all these different roles set up: administrators, budget input, designers, viewers. You can set up as many different um, roles as you need to inside Prospero, and make any changes to their settings as far as who gets access to what areas. And it's all in one location. These are all your budget managers and all your report viewers and all your report designers, all in one easy to get to location. Really built for your accounting staff to be able to see all this and handle their security themselves inside the application. They don't have to worry about SQL security. All that's handled on the back end. All right, let's look at some reporting. So I'm going to look at the quick launch first. That left-hand navigation panel, I can always hide that. It gives me more viewing area on the screen. I'll just click this arrow to hide that panel. If I want to bring it back, I'll just click that arrow again to bring it back out from the left. But again, some of your users may not even need that left-hand panel. They may handle everything right here on their quick launch. So quick launch gives every user a place to list their most commonly used reports and charts, report collections, and their input screens. I've got, on the left-hand side, the reports and charts grouped together. In the middle, report collections, and on the right-hand side, our one option for a forecast input screen. So your individual users can come in here, update their list of what should be listed on their quick launch window. They pick all their reports. They pick any collections that they want to get to, and their input screens as well. And again, they can only list here the ones that you have given them access to. For reporting, let me run this income statement using trees on the left-hand side. So I'll click this panel one time. That will ask me a couple of questions before it actually runs the report. So this window pops up for this report. The top left, I've got 3 prompts. I can pick what company I want to run this report for, what location and what department. I'm running for company 1, our US company. I'm running for all locations and all departments. So those are the summaries for locations and departments. It's a summarized balance of all of those IDs rolled together. On the right-hand side, I can pick the year and the period I want to run the report for. There's a lot of other settings here, but the only other big one that I want to point out is closer to the bottom right for output. Typically, you send this to your workspace, the screen here, but in that drop-down box, you can send this out directly to the printer, directly to Excel, directly to PDF, or go ahead and publish this report inside Prospero. Archive it so it doesn't change. You always have today's copy. So I'm going to keep this as a workspace, and then when I click OK, this goes out into Prospero's SQL database and pulls all the balances together and generates the report right here inside Prospero on a separate tab. So I have my quick launch tab, and then I have this tab, which is the report that just generated. You don't have to go to a separate viewer. It's all here in the same application. Easy to jump back and forth with these tabs going across the top of the page here. The reports inside Prospero. You control all of the formatting for every row, every column, all the report headers, all the report footers, column headers, as far as colors, background shading, font sizes. You control all that when you're building the report definitions. So I only have um, 6 columns here. My account numbers on the left-hand side, description, actual balances on this report, budget balances, dollar variance, and a percent variance column. You can have as many columns of data as you need on these reports. If you needed 12 columns of actuals right beside 12 columns of budget, and then 12 variance columns, you can have all those listed on the report. You just have scroll bars go left to right to view that data on the screen here. Now, once you're looking at the reports here, I mentioned drill down. Drill down is really easy inside Prospero. You can double click on any of these rows to drill down to the next page of information. I'll just double click on the salaries row, and I can see all these balances are broken out by sales, marketing, R&D, and services. All those are the different departments. If I wanted to see all those balances broken out by location instead of departments, it's an easy step. I'll just close this tab and back to the first page where I had the report. I'll go to the top left and click change drill down order. And let's just say instead of department at the top, I want to drill down through location. I'll just drag that to the top of the list, click OK. And now I can double click on that row for salaries. And this drills down through that those balances by location, San Francisco, Denver. So easy to change, drill down, even after you've run a report. And if I wanted to change that to any other order, I could as well. All this data is easy to look at in here as the numeric layout, the report format, but it's also easy to switch this over to charts and graphs. So there's a button at the top of the ribbon for display as chart. I'll click that one time. That takes that report and converts all the balances over to pie charts for me. There's different option that you for chart formatting, but I had this one set up for pie charts. If you hover your cursor over any of these sections, pops up, it shows you the title for that section and the dollar amount and the percentage of the total. You can check any of those here for all the balances in the different charts. Drill down still applies on the charts and graphs here. So if I wanted to drill down on total expenses, I'll double click. That takes me to the next page, which is all of my expenses by location. You can change the drill down for that and do it by department just as easy as we did for the numeric report as well. So easy to switch over to charts and graphs, view that data here, drill down to the next level, even change the drill down order and drill into these charts and graphs. Easy to manipulate this data here. At the top, you've got 3 sections under view, under chart, view, layout, and options. So if I wanted to break this apart, I can just check the box for explode slices. Helps break that out a little bit for us. I've got all these different tiles. Some of these are in the different charts here. Some of these are pretty small. I could group some of these together so that if I wanted to see anything that was less than 5% just in one tile of the pie chart by itself, at the top left, I'll click Group Small Slices, and I've got a little scroll bar that will help me set what percentage these should be sorted by or summarized. So right now I've got anything less than 7% in one tile all by itself. So easy to take that data, summarize it, combine the small pieces so that you can clearly see that where all the different balances are coming from. So just one of many ways to analyze that data inside Prospero. Let me close out a few tiles here for us. I want to mention a little bit about how this report's line set was built before I jump over to budgeting with you. So this has got our typical income statement, our revenue section up top, cost of goods sold, and then our expenses. We've got all the accounts for revenue listed separately. I've got all my expense accounts listed separately. The line set does not have all these listed out separately. I'm using some summary accounts to expand and automatically show me uh, the accounts that add this up. So to see the line set that I use to build this report at the top left, I can click lines, and that opens up the line set used by this report in a separate tab. I don't have to go to a separate application to access that or make any changes. I'm right here in the same place. That'll just open up that line set definition in a new tab here at the top. Still have the report right beside it. I can just easily jump back and forth. Now, the line set definition, I've got the definition in the top half of the screen here. The bottom half is a preview, just showing me what this report might look like with all the formatting. I'm going to hide that preview window so that I can have a little bit extra workspace here. So I want to point out that for the revenue section, I've got my individual accounts listed and then arranged for the total. There's no formula. I just got, I'm referencing a range here in the list of accounts. Now this section here, if I ever added a new revenue account, I'd have to come back here, insert a row, and add that new account. So a little bit of maintenance for that top half of this income statement. But a great way to avoid that problem is using summary accounts and then automatically expanding those rows. I've done that in the expense section of this report. So I've got my header for expenses, and then right below I've got my total for expenses, and I'm using a summary account EXPN. And I've told this summary account, this row, to automatically expand above this row. So this will expand and show me all the individual accounts in that summary account for EXPN, and I don't have to go back to this line set and make any changes. Now, if I wanted to see what accounts are in that EXPN summary account, I can select the lookup button for that, and I can see it highlighted here, total expenses. If I expand that, I can see it's a range of every account from 6,000 through all the sevens. So if I ever added a new account in that range, it would automatically be included when I ran this report again. So a great way to reduce maintenance is using these summary accounts and having the line set definition automatically expand and show the individual accounts either above or below this row. So great way for reducing maintenance for all of your reports or for your budget input screens too. Any report that you look at here, you can send these out with the icons at the top to Excel, send it out to PDF or to the printer. And we also have that publish option where you can archive this copy of the report. So you can save these numbers exactly as they are in the Prospero SQL database so that you know these are the numbers on this date when you ran this report. It doesn't matter if you go out tomorrow and change something in the journal ledger, you've always got this copy if you publish it. And if you publish a report, let me go out and click this publish option. I ran this for 2020, February. This will save this exact report so it never gets changed. And as soon as it publishes it, gives me a little message that it was successful, opens up the published version. And another great feature about published reports is that any person who has access to these reports can add notes to these reports. So if you've got this one, like an actual budget report with dollar variances, and you need to give explanation for any of these rows here, just click one time on any of these rows, go over to the right-hand side under the panel for annotations. This is where you add your notes. And at the bottom, there's a button for add. You can add your details here. That adds that text to the right-hand side. It shows me the user that added that text, of the date and time they added it. It also put a blue square on the left of that row. If I put my cursor over that blue square, it pops up, shows me the text. And the next person that opens up this report, they can see those notes on the right-hand side. They can also add their own notes to that row. So it's a great way in published reports for all your different report uh, consumers to collaborate right here inside Prospero. They don't have to email each other about problems with the reports. They can add their notes right here inside this published reports section. All right, so a lot on reporting there. I'm going to jump over to budgeting before I start wrapping this up. Now, keep in mind that the reporting piece with Prospero, you can buy that separately from budgeting. The reporting piece will have a connection to your general ledger. You could buy budgeting all by itself and not have a connection to your general ledger, or you can buy them both together. So you'd have budgeting with the connection to the general ledger. Really powerful if you do that approach and get everything together in one application with that automatic integration to your GL. For budgeting, I have got back on Quick Launch one of our forecast screens set up. So right here on the right under input, I've got a tile for forecast. If I click that one time, that will open up the input screen. It'll ask me what company I want to budget for, what location I want to budget for, and what department I want to budget for. And then I'll click OK, and that opens up that input screen. It's already set for a particular year, and the column definition has it set up for a certain set of columns. I ran it for March, so I've got actuals in this forecast, January, February, March. Those would have been copied in from the general ledger if you bought budgeting and reporting, or you could import from Excel if you did not purchase the reporting piece. And then I've got the forecast columns for April through December and an annual total on the right. All of those are available for input. Um, the balances were copied from the original budget, so you don't have to start that budget from this forecast from scratch. You have some balances here that were copied forward. Um, the input screens here for your budget managers, really easy for them to navigate this. Very similar to Forecaster's input screen and Excel spreadsheets. It's rows and columns, easy navigation. A lot of these rows are gray. Um, they're locked, so you can't change them directly on this screen. They're coming from one of the other detail tabs, or they're going to be calculations on this page. I've got 3 tabs at the top of this window. I'm looking at the main tab right now, but I also have a tab for human resources where I'm budgeting for all of my employees for this department and location, and a tab for capital where I'm budgeting for all my new assets for this particular department and location. But a little bit about the main tab before I jump to those two. Um, you can budget any of the balances here that are available for input. I've got some rows where I've already added some notes. You can add notes to your budget input screen. It's the same way you would add your notes to your published reports. If I click anywhere on the rows that are available for input, I've got that annotations panel on the right hand side that just slides out, and I can add any notes here that I need to. And the next budgeter that has access to this page can add their notes as well. So you can add notes to any of those pages there, any of these rows here. We have options for line item details. So if your budget input people need to add additional rows here, they don't have to ask you to add rows. They can do it themselves. So I have already added some for the travel account. So for travel, I see there's a little pointer on the left-hand side. If I click that once, it expands that row. I've already added 3 rows of line item details for this account. A trip for Atlanta conference, Dallas training, and a recruitment trip up to New York, and their individual dollars in whatever month you expect to take those trips. You can add as many rows of line item details to these accounts as you need to. Just click the insert button at the top, type in your text for that new text for that new row there over where it says label, and enter your balances for that trip. Easy to add those. Any user can do those. without having to call you and ask for those. These IDs are set in, and then the totals just add up to the account that they added the line item details to. And I can just double click on that travel account row to have that collapse. You see all those rows of balances are summarized to this travel account now. So easy way for them to add that. Updates all the total for the accounts and the totals on the right as well. In addition to the main account for your budget managers, there's also the human resource and capital tab. Just want to look at those with you briefly without diving into too many of the details for timing here. Human resources, every row here would be one of the employees for this particular department and location. Prospero tracks information like, are these salaried employees? What's their annual pay rate? If they're hourly, we'll track that instead of annually. Are they going to work the entire year with us from period 1 through 12? Are they full-time employees? Are they working part-time? We can also handle budgeting for pay changes throughout the year, 2 pay changes for the year for each employee. Bonuses can be set up as well for these employees, overtime as well. And before you roll this out to your budget input people, you probably set up all of the benefit and tax calculations as well, so that all of those dollars can be budgeted for this particular location and department as well. So easy to set up all that. It's all set up in one single location for the whole company. And then you would import your employees before you get this page ready for input. But it's an easy process to set those taxes and rates and accounts and then import all your employees. Very same easy concept for capital. This is for budgeting new assets for this particular department and location. Every row here is a group. Every row here is a new asset or group of assets. Prospero just wants to know, when do you plan to purchase these assets? What type of assets are these? Which really handles what account numbers you book the cost, depreciation to, and the life of these assets. How many you plan to purchase, and the individual cost for each one of these rows. And then Prospero calculates depreciation expense for you and books that to the depreciation expense accounts. Human resources and the capital tabs are optional. You do not have to have those tabs for your budget input screens, but do come in really handy, and they are easy to set up. So great 2 modules there that come with budgeting. They're not add-ons, that come with this section of Prospero for budgeting, and easy to set up and easy for your budget managers to use. And again, all that, if they were using Forecaster in the past, we can copy that information from Forecaster over to Prospero so that you're not starting from scratch. You'll have something that you can have up and running very quickly inside Prospero for budgeting. Now, this input screen for this forecast, you can set up your fonts and colors and background shading, all that, however you want to set up. You can have as many columns here as you need to, or as few. If you need any formulas on these rows, it's easy to add those to the line set. And this page here, you're building it with a column definition and a line set definition, just tying those together in the input screen definition. And it could be the same columns and lines that you use for reports. And as soon as your budget managers click the save button on these input screens, it's stored in Prospero's SQL database, and everything's consolidated. The reports are ready to run for the whole company right away, and easy comparison to actual because everything is booked to the same chart of accounts. All right, so I am coming up on the top of the hour here. Just a few things I wanted to recap before we wrap up this webinar on Prospero for financial reporting and budgeting. A lot of great features that we looked at inside the application. And let's see, I'm going to jump over to our recap screen, reporting and budgeting. And we were reporting, we looked at one report for an income statement we ran, easy to define those report definitions with a line set and column set. Easy analysis with changeable drill down order. We drill down through the departments, then we changed it, drill down through the locations. Easy to change that even after you run the report. We looked at that data in numeric format, and then we looked at it also in pie charts. So easy to look at any data in numeric or charts and graphs with dynamic drill down, so we could double click on the pie chart wedges and drill down to the details beneath there. We looked at published reports, so that if you do want to keep a archived copy of that report you just ran, you can publish it. And published reports are available for adding notes, so anybody who can access that published report can add notes to that report and see everybody else's notes as well. So a great place for collaboration between all of your different report consumers. We looked at report collections, where you can have several reports all in one collection, have them all run at one time. And a great feature that came back from the FRX days was being able to generate a report directly to Excel, directly to a PDF or to the printer without having to run it first, look at it on the viewer, and then export it or print it. So you can send it to any of these different options as soon as you click generate. Budgeting had a lot of great features that we looked at just now. Our main input screen, easy navigation for your budget managers, columns and rows. We looked at line item details. We added those additional rows of detail for the travel account, and then I added all the balances, annotations for adding notes to any rows on these screens. I didn't look at account history, but any account, we can track the history for anybody and the balances that are changed for that account. So you have account history where Prospero can show you who changed what balances and the date and time they changed them. So great way for keeping track of changes by individual user inside Prospero. We looked at the human resource budgeting detail tab and the capital budgeting detail tab, and a huge plus over Excel is instant consolidation, so that as soon as they click save on the input screen, those balances are inside Prospero SQL database, and they're summarized right away according to the trees, and they're available for reporting right away for the whole company against your actuals or any other version of the budget or forecast. So everything's all in one place. Plus, with all these great features, if you have been using Management Reporter, FRX, or Forecaster in the past, we've got migration options for all of those. So a great way to save some time and money. Don't start from scratch. Let us help you get those things copied over, all your report definitions, your input screen definitions, so that we can get it up and running very quickly inside Prospero. All right, so we are wrapping it up today. Hope you got a lot of good information there about Prospero. I'll be glad to help you out with anything that comes to mind later. Just email me at noah.mosley@msxgroup.com. If you want to set up a private demo where it's just me and you or one of your clients or just a few people, just let me know. I'll be glad to set that up, and we can get together and have more of a dialogue talking about the product and what it can do for you. Plus, we can also set you up with a free 30-day trial site so that you can get hands-on with the application on our servers to get a feel for report creation, report generation, publishing reports, and budgeting inside Prospero. So great option there. Free 30-day trial site. We can get you up and running pretty quickly. Very quickly on our demo database, but we could also set that trial up using your own GL data. So that's a great option to really see how it applies to your company and your chart of accounts. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a good afternoon. Email me if you need me, have any questions. Otherwise, until then, have a great day.